This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Better fasten your seatbelts, folks. We're seeing a lot of labor turbulence ahead. Last night, UAW President Shawn Fain accused the Detroit Three of not bargaining in good faith. In fact, the union filed unfair labor charges against GM and Stellantis with the NLRB, or the National Labor Relations Board. Fain is using videos on Facebook and YouTube to vent his anger, and to use his own words, he's getting pissed off. This clip will give you an idea of the kinds of things the UAW president is saying, but watch out, some of the language is not safe for work.
UAW family, I know this update's infuriating, and believe me when I say I'm fed up. And one thing I want to tell you is this trash can is overflowing with the bull that the big three continue to peddle.
Now, Stellantis said it was shocked by the charges. General Motors said it was surprised, but both of them said they would vigorously defend themselves against the filing. Ford issued a detailed rebuttal to Fain's accusations, saying its proposal would raise wages and bonuses from the $78,000 that workers earn now, including all benefits, to $92,000 in the first year of the contract that it offered. One thing's for sure, this is all going to get a lot uglier the closer we get to September 14th, which is when the current contract expires, and that's only 2 weeks away. Meanwhile, Shawn Fain's saber rattling is getting results in Washington, D.C. The UAW has withheld its endorsement of President Joe Biden's bid for re-election, saying the administration needed to do more to protect union workers in their transition to electric vehicles. So yesterday, DOE Secretary Jennifer Granholm announced it was making $12 billion available to companies to convert existing plants to make EVs as long as they had collective bargaining agreements or pay high wages. Another $3.5 billion will be available to make EV batteries as long as it's done in communities with a long history of making cars with high wages. Or in other words, it will be a lot easier to get that money for automakers with unionized workforces, which only includes GM, Ford, and Stellantis. Even so, no doubt the non-union automakers are going to try and get some of that money anyway. Hyundai Kia announced that they're investing another $2 billion into their EV battery plant in Georgia. That brings Hyundai Kia's total EV investment in Georgia to $7.5 billion, and it will create an estimated 8,500 jobs. Well, Tesla's Highland finally made its official debut. That's the refresh version of the Model 3, but so far it's only available in Europe and China. Styling-wise, it's a mild refresh, with a nose job and some minor changes to the rear lighting. Those new looks do help improve the aerodynamics though, which is part of the reason the range increased by 10 to 12%. According to Car News China, the new rear-drive Model 3 features a 194 kilowatt or 264 horsepower electric motor and has a range of 606 kilometers or 376 miles on the Chinese test cycle. The all-wheel drive car is said to have 331 kilowatts or 450 horsepower and 713 kilometers or 443 miles of range. As for the interior, the stalks were removed from the steering wheel like we previously reported. The seats are nicer, it's quieter, rear seat passengers get a little display screen, and the front screen is said to be able to tilt. Previous reports suggested that the refreshed Model 3 would start around $27,500 in China, but pre-sales kicked off with a starting price of roughly $36,000 for the rear-drive model and about $41,000 for all-wheel drive. But that wasn't the only big Tesla news. It's slashing the price of FSD in North America. It's now listed at $12,000 in the U.S., which is $3,000 cheaper. Almost exactly a year ago, Tesla raised the price of FSD to $15,000. In Canada, the price was cut by 3,500 Canadian dollars. Even so, the subscription cost for FSD still remains $199 a month. But Tesla also cut the price of the Model S and X by roughly 15 to 20% in most of the world. The big news here is that it drops the price of the Model X below 80 grand in the U.S., which allows it to qualify for the full federal tax credit.
At Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. Electrifying mobility, manufacturing smarter, reducing CO2 emissions, making energy production clean. Schaeffler pioneers motion to advance how the world moves.
Well, it finally happened. Kia outsold Hyundai in the U.S. market in August, and not just by a little. Hyundai sales were up 1.1% last month to over 65,000 units, while Kia's sales shot up 9.2% to more than 72,000 vehicles. Kia once sold half of what Hyundai did in the U.S., but it's been closing the gap every year with a good-looking lineup of cars. The people at Kia have certainly earned the right to pop the champagne corks. Automakers aren't just focused on making their vehicles more environmentally friendly, they're also working to make their entire operations more sustainable. So Jaguar Land Rover announced it will significantly cut emissions from its freight trucks in the UK by replacing them with 220 trucks that run on battery power or biogas. It's collaborating with DHL to make the transition, and the new fleet will be fully operational by April of next year. JLR will also use larger trailers to transport goods to reduce weekly travel and CO2 emissions. It says this will reduce its overall road freight vehicle emissions in the UK by 84%, saving more than 8,400 metric tons of carbon a year. Mini had a couple of big reveals. It showed off the all-new Cooper and Countryman, which are available as all-electric models. Let's start with the Cooper, whose styling is not a far departure from the previous model, but overall we think the edges are a little more rounded and the grille is more closed off. The interior is somewhat minimal, retaining the theme of a round center screen as well as a few buttons and toggle switches. But the display can be changed into a number of different looks, and Mini really stepped up the amount of ambient lighting. There will be 2 EV power outputs available at first. The Cooper E has 135 kilowatts or 184 horsepower and will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds, while the Cooper SE gets a 160 kilowatt or 218 horsepower electric motor and will do 0 to 100 in 6.7 seconds. A nearly 41 kilowatt hour battery pack in the E provides 305 kilometers or 189 miles on the WLTP cycle, and the SE has 402 kilometers or 249 miles of range with a 54 kilowatt hour battery. Gas engines will also be available. But now let's shift to the Countryman, which is growing in size. Mini went with a more rugged design than the Cooper. The lines are crisp and the fenders become more defined, but the interior theme is very much the same as the Cooper. The Countryman also gets a range of gas engines, but it's available as a BEV as well. The base E model has 150 kilowatts or 204 horsepower, while the all-wheel drive version has 230 kilowatts or 313 horsepower. It will come with a roughly 66.5 kilowatt hour battery pack that will return 462 kilometers or 287 miles of range in the single motor and 433 kilometers or 269 miles of range in the dual motor. Production of both should start later this year, the Countryman in Germany and the Cooper in China. But that brings us to the end of today's show, and this week we'll be taking Monday off for the Labor Day holiday. Now, I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. Scheffler, we pioneer motion. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
At Teijin Automotive Technologies, we combine world-class composite materials expertise with cutting-edge designs because, frankly, there are better ways to lightweight vehicles. So lighten up with Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
We want to know what drives your testing. OTA, connected car, diagnostics, remote testing. Intrepid Control Systems is here to help you work from anywhere. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data. Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.